Hello, everybody. This is Theodore with Lies of the Devil YouTube channel, where it's simply exposing lies of the devil. And don't kid yourself, there's plenty of devils out there. Who I have on the phone, his name is Scott. He was, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong. He was the shop manager for about a year at DAL, and so he has a lot of information that most people don't know about. So go ahead, Scott. Explain how long you're at DAL and the feelings that you got there. How each day was. You know, how is each day? How you woke up, you went to a meeting, you worked. I mean, just go through the nuts and bolts of your experience there, and then we'll get into the heavy stuff.
All right. I was actually there from August of 2019 till April of 2020, so just over 7 months, going on 8 months I was there. When I first got there, it was, typical. Everybody was nice and, trying to be friendly. And as time went on, different faces started exposing themselves. He's got a lot of dark sides that he tries to manipulate other people into doing his things and stuff like that. But as time went on, I know, especially when I came back from Christmas vacation, I noticed a big change towards me. I was being mocked. There's a couple children there, well, quite a few actually, and they were mocking me because of my possibility of the flat earth theory, which is pretty descriptive in the Bible. And I knew they had been talking behind my back when I was there, so I knew at some point I had to get out of there. There was even a point prior to that when Mr. Hovind actually came to myself and two other gentlemen and asked us to go break into his son's ministry and just pretty much take as much as we could. And he said he'd pay us for gas. He said he'd pay us for the hotel. And basically he'd fund it, whatever we needed to do the job. And
stealing from his
son.
Yeah, his son. So I know that he had Paul Hansen go steal a trailer. He literally was like, "Hey, take whatever you can."
Yeah, he wanted us to go basically spy out the place, and basically pick an opportune time to break in and steal whatever we could and come back. He's obsessed with getting everything he can back from his son. I mean, he's even got a lawsuit against him, which I'm sure you probably know that.
Mm-hmm. It's so weird because like 6-7 months ago, a man called me, and I'm trying to get a hold of him so that I can get his testimony. He called and said that Kent asked him to come spy on my wife and I at the apartment complex we were at. So, I mean, he is obsessed, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No. He's just trying to silence, people. He's trying to scare them, and I just want to put this on video. If anything does happen to me because of this testimony, it is definitely directly related to Mr. Hovind and the ministry, because about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got a mail from one of the guys down there. His name is Joe, and he wanted me to mail him a pair of wool socks, which was well past the winter months. And I thought about it. I couldn't understand why. And the reason he wanted me to mail him that, I come to the conclusion that they have no information on me.
They want your address.
So they needed my address, correct. So I did not mail them those pair of socks that he requested. And I know, he's got a right-hand henchman down there who recently was busted coming from Steve's house for a DUI, and Mr. Hovind interfered with it's kind of a long story, but he interfered with him going back to jail and made sure that he got into drug rehab. So this guy kind of owes, I guess, Mr. Hovind a little bit for not going to prison, and he's the type of dude that would let's say, threaten to kill his wife.
Mm.
He was recently married in December of 2019, and by February, 2 months later, he had threatened to kill his wife. He left her house, came back up here, purchased drugs from Steve, which they found in the vehicle. He got pulled over for a DUI, and Mr. Hovind interfered with him going back to prison. I mean, there's a reports, police reports and stuff like that filed. Even his wife came to Dinosaur Adventureland and talked to Mr. Hovind about the situation that happened. So he's got people there that would be violent for him, because he's helped him stay out of prison and stuff like that. So
is it the guy that had kind of like weird eyebrows and I'll
tell you, his name was Laszlo.
Yeah, that's it. I'm looking at the video right now. Oh my gosh. Okay, this guy. So he can you read?
He had a problem with me. I called him out when I was down there. I called him out as a snake. And I knew it from the beginning that this dude was not trustworthy. I have a 1996 Harley Sportster, and this dude just did not like me from the word go. He sabotaged my Harley. He poured stuff down in my fuel tank. He drained the oil out of the reservoir for the motorcycle, the oil reservoir. I know he did it because he's the only one that would do it. He was constantly playing little games. He'd shut off the water to the man cave and just shut the electric off and stuff like that, just to be a nuisance. The guy, he's got mental issues. He's got problems.
Wow.
Yeah, he thinks he's some kind of trickster, but I caught on right away.
So what do you know about Steve, the IT guy?
Well, I know a few things about him. I know he tries to keep things hidden, which are very obvious. I mean, when you walk into a place and your eyes are bleeding out of your head and you're sweating profusely and it's like 50 degrees outside, there's something wrong. I've gone over to his house a few times to install an air conditioner with one of the former residents there, but of course he was narked out by one of Mr. Hovind's little snitches, and of course he was thrown off the property for something that was not a big deal. You know what I mean? So did you ever meet little Timmy, young Timmy? He was probably there when you were there.
I don't remember.
Well, before I left there, I started calling him Triple T, Two-Tongue Timmy.
Okay, go ahead.
Because he was snitching everybody out, and after everybody finally figured out who it was, he went and hid over at Steve's house, because Steve is just another one of Mr. Hovind's snitches. There was nothing going on there. An occasional doobie, no heavy drugs or anything like that. Not a big deal, but this guy could go ahead. He could break the rules. He could go down to New Orleans, and he could go get smashed and tell on somebody else and get him kicked off the property. Nothing would happen to him. Or he could smoke, or he could take pills. I do know that there was a pill situation there, and I never did find out who they came from, but there is one drug dealer there, and that's Steve, and he definitely participates in all that stuff. Because if I could backtrack just a minute, when we went to go install his air conditioner, I left out of there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it was starting to rain, and I looked in the window, man, and he's just blacked out in front of his computer, drool coming out of his mouth. I knocked on the window to wake him up and wave goodbye, and he just looked out of it, man. He was hit.
So Steve is a drug dealer. Is he dealing it? You tell me what you're comfortable with. Do you believe or know that he's dealing drugs to people in and around the area?
Well, Laszlo came all the way up from Pensacola, Florida, because he just recently moved. Well, I don't know if it's Pensacola, but I know it is Florida. He just came up from Florida drunk to see Steve, and I do know Steve is a smoker. I do know that he does participate in marijuana, and I know he is a drinker. So for Laszlo to drive 2.5, almost 3 hours from Florida up there, there's got to be more to it than just I'm coming up to visit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
And then he was busted on the way back down to Florida for a DUI and possible under the influence of marijuana. And then that's when they were going to take him to jail because he had threatened to kill his wife and all that. And Mr. Hovind interjected. But I told you that part.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so who is Cindy? Who is Cindy Lincoln? Is, there people... I have no idea who she is. I've had very little contact with her, if any. It wasn't even really me. It was 2 other of my friends that were there. Warned Cindy before she moved down there and sold everything. Warned her that Kent's a wolf, and she made excuses because she wanted to be a part of. She calls him her leader. Who is she? I mean, is she this goody two shoe that everybody thinks she is, or is she got ulterior motives?
No, not at all. She's a moderator basically between those who really didn't get along with Mr. Hovind, because you got a group of people there, those people who, like, I lived there, but I was considered you have to understand that Mr. Hovind has 2 groups of people. He's got his group of snitches who live there, and then he's got people in the man cave, which there are 1 or 2 snitches there. Okay, he's also a sexist. I mean, if you're a man, you get sent to the man cave. If you're a female, oh man, you get spoiled. You get you get you a little cabin and everything like that. I spent 8 months in a 10 by 10 room at the top of a smog infested shop. But anyway, back to Cindy. No, she was basically a moderator. I think she is battling within herself, and I want to say multiple personalities, because Kent has driven her, Mr. Hovind has driven her to that point.
Yeah.
We had a long discussion before I left, and she was, basically telling me that she didn't know what to do anymore. And she's not innocent by any means. And I did see your video where Steve talks about the dog. And I wish my old phone was working, but the screen is broken. I have a text message on there that says, "This dog is barking. I have a gun. Would somebody come and shoot it?" And that was a group message sent by Mrs. Hovind herself. I swear. This is truth. God is my witness. She said, "This dog is barking. I have a gun. Somebody come and shoot it."
What the heck?
Yeah, this is true to life, brother. Here's another thing, is that when stray dogs and cats and such would come on the property, unless you battled with them, these animals disappear quickly.
Wow.
They claim to be a creation science, but I see no love for God's creations there whatsoever.
Well, Kent laughs about. He always makes jokes. I always tell people, when Kent makes jokes, it seems on the surface that it's funny. He's making jokes like he made a pornographic joke in front of a bunch of kids at a Bible study, and then he goes, that's a joke. Well, he's not joking when he's talking about killing animals or that the animals need to go. He in his heart really means, hey, somebody, it's okay if you kill the dog. It's okay if you kill the cat.
Yeah, they disappeared down there. I actually, a cat came into my possession because she wandered in, and she was very young. She was like 6 months. So she jumped up on my lap, so I kept her. And I hid her in my room pretty much. I never let her out, but every once in a while, when, like Sunday when everybody was gone, or Monday night everybody was working and stuff like that. There, people seen her. They knew they were there, but we kept it on the down low. As she got pregnant, and ended up having 4 kittens, which I actually still have. But the mother died in the process. And, if I wouldn't have done that, they would have, they probably would have taken the cat out, thrown it out the window, moving or stopped. It doesn't matter. They probably would have got rid of it at one way or another. But there was a lot of controversy. The people who live there and the people who are his snitches, they got no problem with pets. He says, well, I don't want them in the cabins, but certain people get to have them, and those certain people do little favors for him, and they get to keep their pets. But if you don't bow down to him and obey his every command, then you have no rights there. He's a dictator, and I've told him that to his face. And we were talking about he said, take a ride with me and convince me of this flat earth thing. And that's when every time I brought something up, he replaced it with science. And he goes, the things that you're talking about out of the Bible goes against what I am teaching, and I would ask for you to not talk about them anymore. And I told him to his face while we were in the car, I said, look, man, I said, I didn't come down here to work for a dictator. I said, I came down here to work for a ministry. I said, there's nothing more I can learn from you. And I said, as of April 1st, I'm gone. And I gave him a 6-week notice to replace me.
Here's how I look at it. People go, are you pre, mid, post trib? To me, I don't know. I have no idea. Just be ready. That's all I know. Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And flat Earth, round Earth, is the Earth center of the universe. Listen, I only know what's in the Bible, and I trust God. And honestly, for me, in instance, you saying I'm flat Earth, okay, we can have a discussion about it. You know what I mean? Right. We can have a great discussion about it, but that's what Kent does, is that I've made a video on this, and I think I'm going to try to dig it up. He basically is telling everybody in this ministry, you only talk about what I want you to talk about. Whatever my doctrine is, that's what your doctrine should be, and that's the only thing you should talk about.
Right. Yeah, there is no Bible study. Whatever you see on video is all that his Bible study entails. There's no, the girls get together, they read the Bible, and then that's it. The guys used to do it, but there was too much controversy because I'm the type of person that the Bible uses very small words like in and onto and upon and over, and I'm a stickler for those words. And if you read them the way they are, they mean something. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
you don't just say there's 4 corners of the earth and then just dismiss it with, oh, well, that means north, south, east, and west. You know what I'm saying? So it's simple things like that. There is no Bible discussion. It's just whatever he says on video, you either have to agree with him, and if you disagree, just don't say nothing and just go about your business. Because it is, if you don't want to be here, then you can leave. And I've heard that. And he's even said it on his videos, Yeah. And, if you don't like it here, we tell people they can leave. And he also says on his videos that they're trying not to have a ministry anymore. He's trying to change it into a work camp. Yeah. Which means human slavery.
Dude, let's talk about the dark stuff that he's... Okay, he believes that he's going to own that property in the 1,000-year reign with Christ. He's going to be the king and the leader, and he says in his videos that he's going to be the mayor of Lenox or Repton, Alabama, whichever city they're in. He believes that, dude. I know, it's crazy.
I know. That's why I'm laughing, because it's true. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at it because it's an evil idea. But.
It is, and it's the twisted view of their theology. It's so crazy. So this is my theory. When he built the gates and he put himself and Mary Tocco, now it's Cindy Lincoln, on the gates, it's as if that they're like the new Adam and Eve, because he's into Gnostic New Age stuff, dude. He's into witchcraft, okay? Yeah. And it's as if he believes that him and his third wife now is going to repopulate or reestablish a city after the tribulation, because he believes we're going to go through the tribulation, not the wrath. So he believes that God is going to protect that area. He's going to run it as the mayor during the tribulation and after, during the 1,000-year reign. And he's literally putting up on the gates his idol, himself as an idol worshiping statue type thing. It's weird.
Yeah, the book of Daniel, it talks about how people will idolize themselves and forget the Creator and give themselves all power. Well, just look at some of his videos. He says, "Oh, these are my real teeth. Look how pretty my teeth are. This is my real hair. I'm only 67. Look how good I look." You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, he's self-appointing, and he's a self-appointing person who just, he believes that he's never wrong. And his live-in girlfriend, Cindy, you know, she actually sends a text message that it said, "Okay, you know, the dog situation is taken care of," and whatever. And she calls him the skipper. And whatever the skipper says, remember, the skipper is always right. And then she put some weird number. It said it was like UL or UC 674 behind it, like it was some kind of code. And I was, you know, when I asked about it, I got no answers from it. I just got, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." So she put this message in there saying, "Remember, whatever the skipper is always right." And then she put this code like a UC or a UL 674. And I didn't know what that meant. I mean, and nobody would tell me what it meant either. So they must have some kind of a deeper cult than was exposed to me. But they have a goat there. It's got the Baphomet horns on it, and they named it Abraham.
What?
And it upset me, but it doesn't seem to upset anybody who lives there.
That's so they have a goat, a full-grown goat, or what? It doesn't matter, a goat, and they called it Abraham.
Right. Well, you know how the Baphomet horns come out and they go to the side?
Yes.
This goat has an identical set of horns, just like the picture of a Baphomet, half man, half woman with a goat head.
Yes.
It has the identical antlers or horns on it, and its name is Abraham.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's a hardcore cult. It's now. I'm getting goosebumps, man, because not Steve's friend called me and was saying that there was a lady that took the crystals from inside the science museum and went out into the pavilion and did some type of witchcraft ritual. And when they found out about it and they told Kent about it, he was like, "Oh, it's not a big deal."
Well, what she did was, she was just one of the traveling people that come through there. Her and her father came through there, and they had two big huskies not huskies, but wolves that they had trained. And she went into the science center, took these crystals, took them down to the pavilion, laid them out in a certain pattern, and was doing a cleansing ritual because she said there were demonic demons all over the place down there. And Mr. Hovind, they really didn't say nothing to her. They just told her that you can't take these crystals out unless you ask us. You can't have this stuff unless you ask us. And then told her when she was done with them to put them back.
Yeah, that's called sorcery. That's called witchcraft. And I don't care what they say, a good witch, a bad witch. It's a witch. It's sorcery.
Right. Well, even science is also alchemy, which a lot of people shun that off because basically alchemy is putting different types of items into a tray, whether they be liquid or a solid or a powder or whatever, and then you would mix them up, and then you would try to tell what happened in the past with these items or tell the future from them. Well, that's exactly what science does. They make this little slurry, they put it in a plate. Now, instead of looking into a bowl, they use a microscope that's gotten a little bit more refined. So science and alchemy are not that far apart. But alchemy faded out in the 1500s, somewhere around the 1500s, along with the flat earth theory. So in comes science and in comes the ball earth right around the same time. And the ball Earth theory was actually brought by Charles Darby, I think his name was, who's an atheist. And they picked that up in the 1500s and been spreading the ball Earth pretty much ever since then. But, I've been doing a little bit of research on the ball flat Earth thing for, 7 or 8 years now. So there's some pretty interesting topics on it out there about that.
So we made a documentary. This is after we left Kent's place, my wife and I, and we put the rest of the money that we had into getting a vehicle, and we were going to travel America. We were going to make a documentary on the different religions and what the truth is, which is Christ, and we were going to start our ministry. And so this documentary, Traveling America in Search of the Truth, I actually went into a Scientology building. I sat down with a guy that was trying to, indoctrinate me or enlist me into their cult. And essentially he was trying to drive a wedge between my wife and I, saying that she might not come along with me if I decide to do this. And that if that's the case, then I'm going to have to leave her. And was saying that, like you said, science, that alchemy, that the Kabbalah, all of this stuff, Christianity, it's all this New Age mystic religion that all ties together, and that you can cleanse your body of toxins by doing meditation, and that how L. Ron Hubbard was into telepathy, and that they would come up with ideas that you now see in NASA, that you now see in the movies, and that we're very close to having the Iron Man suit for the military. So explain your idea on Kent and Scientology, and because we know he's a New Ager. He's into the shack where they believe that's hardcore New Age, so he endorses the shack. He's been caught promoting this game called Herbal Quest. This guy Levi, I warned Kent from the very beginning, this guy Levi is very dangerous. He's a New Ager. He's got a board game where he's got the yin yang sign and the peace sign, and he's got all this weird pentagram stuff all over this board game. And I told Kent, and Kent was like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal." So explain your ideas on Kent and Scientology and your beliefs on that.
Well, there's kind of a lot of small details, but as far as his Scientology goes, I mean, like I mentioned prior when I talked to you, if you look on his video, he's got a little hammer. That little wooden hammer says science is knowledge. Well, we all know that anybody who truly believes in God and who truly believes the words, we know that God is knowledge. We get our knowledge from him. Science is just it's ran by the prince of the power of the air. Just like evolution is in the science books, Mr. Hovind takes out that little piece of evolution and he tosses it off to the side, but yet all the rest of that science that leads up to evolution, the Big Bang Theory and, the beginning of the earth and it's millions of years old. I mean, he even talks about the ice age. There's nothing in the Bible that says anything about an ice age, but yet you'll hear Mr. Hovind talk about it. And then he takes the firmament, which is clear in the Bible that God has built above us, and he says, oh no, God's creation wasn't good enough, it's busted, it fell, but I believe there was an ice canopy that was there at one time, that's why everything grew bigger. Well, the Bible clearly tells us that there was giants on the earth in those days, but it also says that there are regular-sized people. If there was this ice canopy as he describes, then there wouldn't be everybody would be giants. Mm-hmm. Everything would be giants. But yet we only find maybe a couple hundred to a couple thousand large animals, a couple thousand large humans, which are stored away in different areas and stuff like this. So his theory that he preaches to everybody that is so accurate is obviously incorrect.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, then everything would be large. And and he doesn't. He won't talk about any of the stuff in the book of Daniel. It tells you that those who put on righteousness will shine as the firmament and the stars in the end times, because we know the book of Daniel is the book that's supposed to be sealed to the end times. Mm-hmm. And it clearly tells us that the firmament we will shine as the firmament and the stars in the sky. We have something above us. Mr. Hovind refuses to talk about it. Now, if you take science and the Bible, God tells us that he is above us looking down on the face of the earth. According to science, there is nothing above us but this vast space, and there's nothing there. So if you believe in science, then you're falling for a possible lie, because if they're telling you that there's nothing there, and God is telling you, I use earth as my footstool, I'm sitting here watching you, then science is, to me, a lie. I mean, I understand genetics. Yeah, I get the fact that things here that they do on earth manipulated. You know, you take water, put salt in it, you got salt water. You know, you take red and blue, you get green. I get that stuff. But the stuff that the average person cannot test or demonstrate on their own, I don't understand why people believe it. There's so much that he throws in, like how everything is built on the Fibonacci sequence and stuff like that. Well, in order to grow larger as a plant, you have to start as a single cell, and then you work your way around it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So the Fibonacci sequence is only obvious, and it's not a miraculous concept. It was created by God. Yes, it's incredible that everything is built this way, but he takes the contents of the Bible and he removes the actual words that God says, and he replaces them with science.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and I always say God created all things men study, right? We're just studying what God created, and and I'm with you on all that. It's, you know, it's mind-boggling to me that he's still, after all this stuff comes out, if people still continue to follow this man, shame on them. Shame on them. You know, he says that, I love science and I'm a creationist. I don't know. I'm not sure if you've seen this. He promotes eugenics and genocide. He promotes it. He promotes people that exactly what's in the Old Testament. You did adultery. You should be stoned. You misbehaved to your parents. You should be stoned. He should have been killed twice over.
Right, but those rules don't apply to him. See, he can do whatever he wants to, but anybody else, they don't have that freedom of speech if you're on his property. If you're anywhere around there and you say something that goes against him or something that he's done, he'll basically kind of harass you and like asking you why you're not working. Like, I went out there to help. I thought I was going to work for a man of God until I found out, every time you eat a little piece of his food, if you're not killing yourself, then you're not worthy of his food.
Yeah, tell me about, Steve was mentioning that, I'm not sure if you were there during this time, but at this point, but he said, Kent basically said, hey, if you don't work hard enough, we're not going to feed you.
Yeah, he does that almost like on a monthly basis. Like, he'll get to the end of the month and he'll say, we're running low on funds. And I know for a fact that ministry makes well over $500,000 a year.
I know that they do as well, because I saw the finances as I was working on things. They were making a lot of money. A lot.
Right. Well, he was basically threatening everybody, telling them, because all of this stuff with the drug testing, and everybody was finding out about Steve and his hand in the ministry, and the lies that he was telling and how he was untouchable. Well, he was basically starting to tell everybody that was his way of trying to thin everybody out and saying, you guys have to go because I can't feed you. And basically telling people that, yeah, he's going to stop feeding them and that they have to buy their own food and things like that.
And these are people that sold almost. I'm not saying all of them, but people that sold they sold everything to go down there. You know, they don't have anything.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, the people in the man cave a lot of them were kind of like wanderers. A majority of them were drug addicts or had no other place to go. I mean, they had halfway houses, but they just didn't want to go there. And, you know, if you go there, Mr. Hovind finds out that at some point you were a drug addict and you didn't have any other place to go, he extorts you. He treats you like crap. He works you. You know, if he sees you standing around, he drives around on his little buggy and asks why everybody's standing around and how come you're not working and sweating. And, you know, it's 110 degrees outside, brother. You know, you're sitting in your house in your air conditioner while everybody else out here building your crap.
And that's the other thing. He says that I work just as hard as you guys do. I work hard. He doesn't. He sleeps. He takes naps. He goes in his house and hangs out, and it's an AC. And he eats out whenever he wants. And it's a retirement home.
Right. Yeah. He's basically for 51 years of his life, as he boasts about, has been basically living off the hand of God. And basically been stabbing God in the back a majority of the way. He goes in the house. His girlfriend, Cindy, or wife, now, I don't know what she is now, to be honest. I just call her Mrs. Hovind. She does all the slides on his computer for all his videos. So when he types in a number or whatever, all that's done by her. And then Steve does all the recording. All the people... All the buildings that get built are done by those in the man cave, and the rest of them who live in the cabins are, you know, his little pets, and they don't have to do much of anything. I mean, half of them wander around. You know, we had a new family down there that must be donating money because he rode around on his tractor all day long and didn't do squat while, you know, he's walking around in the man cave making sure nobody's sitting in the air conditioner because it's 110 degrees outside. You know, people if you take a break between 8 o'clock and noon when supposedly lunch is, it upsets him. He gets mad.
Yeah, he's a slave driver. Like I said, he believes in that property. He's going to be the king and the mayor, and that he's going to have slaves to do whatever he wants. I believe, because he makes jokes about how Adam was going to take an animal as his wife, basically saying that Adam was going to do bestiality. And he says, oh, no, that's a joke. Once you expose it, oh, that's a joke. Well, in the Talmud, and I'm not saying that the Talmud is all Jews are guilty of what's in the Talmud. I'm not saying that. But in the Talmud, they specifically say that Adam was going to have sexual relations with beasts. And so take that and segue it into this New Age stuff that Kent's all into, and witchcraft. He has the Christian Bible. He uses that as his front, but he reads all these different books, and he's got a different theology than what other people think. And so when you're talking about having slaves in that, he's basically a slave driver, and he's going to own that plot of land. Doesn't that kind of sound like the Talmud and how the Jews are going to have rulership over the Gentiles?
Yeah, how they all think they're going to have 10,000 or more slaves apiece.
Thank you. Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah, he thinks that, you know, he thinks when you eat his food, he thinks it's like Last Supper worthy. He thinks that every morsel that you eat of his food is, you wouldn't have got it from anybody else. Nobody else would have given you this. Nobody else would you get the time of day. Now you owe me. Mm-hmm. And that's how he treats his people. Like I said, some of those kids that go down there, some of them guys that go down there do have drug problems. And they do have, you know, addictions and stuff like that. And he extorts it. Because they have no place to go. So, and you know, he's feeding people. Like before I left, we used to get something halfway decent for lunchtime. And when I left there, he was giving people these cheap hot dogs. And when I say cheap, I mean these things were cheap. Brother. I mean, you're not going to feed, you know, I'm 5'9". I'm a 200-pound guy. I've been in construction most of my life, you know, stuff like that. So I'm not, you know, I'm a pretty thick guy for being small, and there's no way a little hot dog is going to sustain me until dinner time.
Right. No, I agree. So what, construction-wise, he's always watching over you. From what I know, my friend who was a construction worker that was there, he had him install things wrong. He micromanaged him, and he was like, "Listen, man, you're putting in the insulation wrong. You're going to get mold in these cabins here soon. You know, why are you having me do that?" He's like, "Now put it in the way I want."
Yep. He's doing one room for each day of creation. Well, the seventh day room was put in. He's got a 22-foot wall with no support joist in it.
That's dangerous.
And then he built another wall in between those walls and put a room up there. And it's not. I tell you what, if those people, let's see, I can't think of the society right offhand. If they were to go in there and look at that place, there's live electrical wires hanging out of the wall. I mean, we got kids running around there. I'm talking 12 kids on average because of just the ones who live there. And that's not including the busloads of kids that sometimes come from local churches and stuff like that. There's live wires. There's holes in the ground of half-finished construction. There's boards with nails laying around it. There's all kinds of stuff.
Do you know anything about the child that drowned, or did you leave before that?
No, I was there. Could you hold on one sec? Could you pause this?
Yeah, I will.
All right, I'm back. They hung up. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Back. So if you want to go ahead and start with the recording.
Okay, go ahead.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there. Actually, I had run to the store, and I think God spared me from seeing that. I went down to get a few things from the dollar store, which is, I don't know, about 5-10 miles away or something like that, about 15 minutes away. And when I came back, I had heard about it then, and all the stuff they were saying. I mean, the guy had no remorse about it whatsoever. Mr. Hovind had no remorse about it whatsoever. I mean, he didn't even care. There wasn't even no prayer. There wasn't no candlelit vigil, nothing. No nothing. You know, no forgiveness, asking for forgiveness. I mean, there's nothing down there to protect any of the people down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the water. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Where you go out to swim, there's 10 lakes out there. None of them have, say, swimming at your own risk, no lifeguard on duty. None of them have the depth of the lakes, you know, which anything that's open to the public should have. Not only that, is he lets people use the four-wheelers, and on one of the trails, he drives up to the edge and uses it as one of his little spiritual lesson things. This cliff drops about 25 feet down. So if anybody was to drive out there and not remember or completely forget about it, they would drive right off the edge of that cliff. And it's, you know, sand bottom. I mean, he's got no remorse for the people who come there. If you're gonna visit, and if you plan on eating his food, and you don't plan on working, he'll say something to you until you either pitch in on some food, you buy your own food, or you leave. He's not for feeding anybody unless he can get work out of them.
It's not a ministry, man. It's just a.
It's not.
It's
a
not
dictatorship. Cult.
No, it's a cult. He's just he's building it up, like I said, for the 1,000-year reign, and he wants a bunch of slaves.
Yep. Well, there was a minister there from Vietnam. There was an American minister, And I had to ask him because as a shop manager, there was things that I needed to order and this and that. And I wanted to talk to him about a few things on the list. Well, when I walked up there, I seen on the screen and heard them talk. I mean, I was 3 feet away from them. They didn't stop talking about it. They have what they claim is all these Vietnamese who are under persecution, and they want to bring 200 to 300 families, and they want to smuggle them into there and build them all cabins. Basically, human trafficking.
Yeah,
is what that is. I mean, the Bible tells us to help our neighbor. It doesn't say nothing about running from persecution. Basically, in the book of Revelation, it talks about the fifth seal, and the voices, once he opens it, the voices from under the altar say, "How long, O Lord, wonderful, powerful and almighty?" And he says, "Until your brothers have been persecuted and killed as you have."
Mm-hmm.
So God is telling you right there that, there's no sense in running, because you will be, they're going to come after you.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, there's no reason to human traffic these people, especially if they have very little to no English skills. I mean, if he did do that, it may even backfire on him. They may take over that piece of property.
Yep.
And give him a little eye opener.
Yep. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you can think of that is important for people to know?
We touched on a lot, so nothing is coming up. But if it does, I will definitely give you a call back, okay. And we'll do another sit down or whatever. But
okay,
yeah, if there's something you people should know, that if you're funding his 777 club, please stop. If you are sending this guy money and he tells you at the first of the month that they have no money to take everybody out to eat, because he doesn't feed people on Sunday and Monday. He doesn't give them any food. If you come to his Bible study at 11 o'clock on Sunday, if you don't come to his little Bible study thing, you don't get to go and get Chinese. If you don't come to that Bible study, you don't get to go. And if you're sending $200 or $300 and paying for his Chinese bill, please stop. That guy is making well over $500,000 a year, and he's spending it and wasting it on junk. Oh, wait, there is one more thing. Before I left, they were putting an add-on to the so-called Science Center, which is a joke, by the way. There's a couple little science projects and a bunch of fossils. But he was building this building on only because somebody offered to donate $100,000 to $150,000 worth of taxidermied animals. This means he built this building so he could put dead animals in it, so he could surround himself with death. Okay? And he cuts down trees for his science center, even though he has 80 empty acres with no trees on it. He can't avoid from cutting down the trees of creation that God had created, or killing his animals just to build his science center. He is no creation evangelist. He's a thief, and he's using the name of God to do it. And it's very disappointing. Mm-hmm. So at that, I'll draw this to a conclusion, because I'm sure there'll be more. And I will call you back, because more things will come to mind and stuff like that.
Okay. I'm going to let's go through some Bible verses about everything we talked about. Matthew 7:15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but are inwardly ravening wolves. Okay, that's who Kent is. The guy, he's a wolf. Okay.
Yes, he is.
Give your ways. Behold, I send you forth as lambs among wolves. That's what's going on right now. What Steve's friend, the ex-construction worker, and people people that have the confidence that are okay, you call in. We are lambs. We are set out amongst these wolves, and God warns, and I've said it many times, if you read the Bible, God warns much more about these false prophets, these wolves that make merchandise of you, more than the heathen.
Right. And he says, if you don't expose them, whatever blood he draws is on your hands as well. So
I'm so glad you said that, because I tell people that all the time as a watchman, that we're supposed to blow the trumpet, we're supposed to warn the people, otherwise their blood is on our head, hands, just like you or my head, and that's why this is about exposing people. They say, don't do it. He's a man of God. He's doing so much.
Right.
No, he's not. He's doing a lot more harm.
Right, he is, and don't fall for his. Once you can't lose your salvation, because the Bible is very clear. It tells us, not all who call me Lord, Lord shall enter the kingdom of heaven. So if these people were believers in one way, shape, or form, they did something to lose their salvation. Once you're saved, you believe in Christ, you shouldn't be out there just doing whatever you want to do, taking advantage of people, manipulating them, laundering money, which, you know what, I will call you back about that property thing. But
okay.
Yeah, he does whatever he wants because he thinks that he's saved, and there's nothing will ever come against him because he believes.
And he says it all the time. I can sin all I want, and God's going to open up the book, and there's going to be nothing there. There's going to be nothing about me there. And he believes he can sin all he wants. So I'll let you get going here, Scott. I thank you for the time you gave. Very generous on the time. We'll keep in contact. And Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. John 8:32, ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And the truth is the Lord Jesus Christ.